Good morning. I was out on a paramotor camping trip this past weekend, and we're sitting around the fire chatting, and I made the comment that I often relieve myself in flight. So I had an appendectomy like 15, 20 years ago, something like that, and the scar tissue has restricted my bladder. So if I'm flying for hour and a half, 2 hours, I'm gonna pee at least once. And I've sort of made the offhanded comment that it's pretty easy to do. You just turn downwind and get out of your harness. And that was met with a chorus of, you don't have to turn downwind. That's not how airspeed works, etc., etc. And I get all that. Yeah, of course, you're traveling through an air mass, the ground doesn't exist, all that stuff. Totally get it. My point was that there can be relative wind, and that relative wind can influence your urination. And I'm not going to explain my point here using any ground reference, because that is instantly chopped. It's the ground doesn't exist. You're sitting in an air mass that's moving. You're traveling forward at 30 knots through that air mass. It doesn't matter what direction the air mass is moving with respect to the ground. But through observation, I have seen that whenever you pee in a certain direction, it's possible for that stream to be influenced by relative wind around you. Yes, I'm traveling this direction at this speed, but is it possible for wind to hit me from the side even though I'm traveling this direction? And I think a good example of this is if you're just moving faster, right? As you increase speed and you try to send liquid in a direction, it's going to come back at you, right? It's just like peeing into the wind. So is it possible for there to be a strong enough wind from the side, even though I'm traveling this direction, to bend or push the urine? And the arguments seem to sit in the area of perfect world simulation, So I'm out here this morning at San Martin, and we got a good wind hitting right now. Well, surprisingly, we got 5 or 6 knots over there, and I've sort of rigged up a system that will allow me to eject water from my harness. That'll do. I was flying yesterday and I had a ridiculous headwind, like 20 knots. So we're going to go up today, we're going to hit this button, and we're going to do some turns, and we're going to see what happens. I have a wind speed meter with me, so we'll be able to get sort of indicated airspeed in a rudimentary fashion to verify I'm going the same speed this way as I am when I go this way, and then see if it's possible for a quote-unquote crosswind in the air to influence urine as it leaves your body. So let's see what happens. Okay, real quick, I'm at 1,500 feet. I killed the engine so I could have this chat. I have an anemometer, so that'll show us that we're going the same speed, indicated airspeed, rudimentary indicated airspeed. This way, that way, that way, that way. This should be about 25 miles an hour. I've got a wicked headwind going right now. So in the northbound direction, my ground speed is 17, right? Kick it around. By the way, my brake latch broke, which kind of sucks. All right, let's kick it around and go south. 180 degrees, and we're going 42. All right, sweet. So, and this is my my urination machine, which pees like this. See that? All right, here we go. That was a close one. Weight shift circle. trouble. All right, I'm back on the ground. Flew for about an hour and a half. The first time in like, I don't know, 6 months, I did not stand up the landing. The ground is pretty wet, and my foot slipped out from under me, hit my butt, and then that shot me forward, and I ended up on my knees, which kind of sucks. But anyway, experiment's done, and I'm happy that happy to prove myself wrong. There is no real relative airflow that is influencing the direction of the liquid. I think what I experienced, or at least what I experienced that time where I saw it, you know, drastically shooting to the side, was every time I do one of these evacuation events, it's always under power, and I suspect that there's some torque effect being imparted on the liquid, sort of turning my frame slightly to the right, which would result in, you know, curving off to the side like you see in the video there. But anyway, going around the full circle, it went the same path, regardless of whether or not I was covering ground quickly or slowly. So physics was right, I was wrong, and all good. Happy that that I did the test and proved it to myself. And now I'm gonna go buy some bagels and coffee for some air traffic controllers, and happy Thanksgiving. Peace.